Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to our second session of lessons on Talim al-Haq. Could you all just give me a message saying you can hear the sound. If the sound is clear, then we make a sign. Perfect. Excellent. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So last week we went through the meanings and the significance of the kalimas. We reached into the section where we were speaking about the importance of the fifth kalima. The importance of the fifth kalima, and I also explained that there are certain categories where a person may be reciting the kalima, but at the same time, that person will still be regarded as a kafir. And there were different examples that I gave you, which you can probably see on the slide. What is the definition? The definition of a kafir? The definition of a kafir, as I explained last week, was that the word kafir means to hide. And because a person is hiding the truth being that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his messenger. And this is why a person is called a kafir, because a kafir is concealing the truth. Another type of disbeliever is a munafiq. A munafiq is a person who recites the kalima with his tongue or her tongue, but inside the heart it is absolutely empty. He or she has no faith of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whatsoever. In English, they are also known as a hypocrite. The next category is a murtad. A murtad is a person who has accepted Islam, but for some reason, for some silly reason, a person has turned away from the truth of Islam. Then we have somebody called a kitabi. In the Quran, in the Holy Quran Sharif, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions the Ahli Kitab. The Ahli Kitab means a person who believes in the previous scriptures, whether they be a Christian or a Jew. The Christians believe in the New Testament. The Jews, they believe in the Old Testament. And because they believe in a book, they are known as a kitabi. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned the Ahli Kitab in various sections, various parts of the Holy Quran. Another type of person is an atheist. And this is something you might have studied in religious studies. If you're in secondary school, you probably studied the beliefs of atheists. Atheist is a person who does not believe in the concept of God. He totally denies the existence of God. And the ulama have also put another category in place, a mulhid and a zindiq. A mulhid and a zindiq is a person who believes in Islam, but there are certain parts of Islam which that person has no faith regarding. For example, salah, zakat, but he holds such views which are against the general opinion of the scholars. Okay, the different branches of Iman. See, Iman, as I explained last week, has three categories, where the first part being Islam, the second part was Iman, and the third part was Ihsan. Could somebody just give me a brief overview of what the term? Who remembers what the term Islam means? Could you just give me a quick message and see if you can give me the answer? What does the term Islam mean? Who remembers from last week? I'll give it a few seconds. If I get an answer, fine. If I don't, then we'll leave that. So there were three categories: Islam, Iman, and Ihsan. Right, okay. So I did explain that there were three categories. And the three categories you can see here at a glance. Islam means to believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one. The Prophet is his last messenger. To pray 5 times a day, fasting in Ramadan, zakat and pilgrimage to Hajj. Those are the 5 pillars of Islam. And I also went through the evidence which shows in the hadith that the 5 pillars of Islam are so and so. Iman is a step further where a person needs to believe in Allah Taala, His angels, the divine books, the messengers, and the day of judgment, and also to believe in predestination, which we'll cover in some further sessions. And ihsan is to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in such a way that when you are worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you worship in such a way that you have firm belief and conviction that Allah Ta'ala is seeing you, or you are seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we covered that last week in detail. So I was speaking about the fifth kalima. So it is stated in a hadith that Iman has more than 70 branches. The best of them is proclaiming La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and the lowest is to remove an obstruction from the road. Aqidah is the word that we use. Aqidah is the word that we use for belief in Islam. It's the most important part of Iman, because if a person's aqidah, if a person's belief is not correct, then that person could be liable to punishment on the day of judgment. Nowadays, I've explained this before, nowadays, unfortunately, aqidah is not explained in detail, neither in the madrasa or nor at home, unless you then enroll to go into alim class, then you'll cover it in more detail. And I also explained that because when a person goes to university or even the workplace, you will definitely come across in your lifetime, you'll come across maybe a Shia, you might come across a Qadiani. And if you don't know what the correct beliefs are, they could talk you into becoming one of them. And that would pose a great challenge, and it could be a means of a person being punished in the hereafter. I remember my teacher saying, and I mentioned it last week, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will punish a person on 2 regards. Either if that person's aqidah and belief is not correct, then that person will go to the fire of hell. And also, if a person's amal, if a person's deeds are not the right deeds, not the correct deeds, not the good deeds, then again the person could be punished. The difference is, if the belief is regarding, if the deed is regarding aqidah, if a person has wrong belief, then because of the belief, a person can go to the fire of hell and may not come out forever. And if a person is going to the fire of hell because of his deeds or her deeds, then in that situation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will, inshallah, because of the intercession of the Holy Prophet, will forgive that person, and they will then be admitted into paradise. If a person has more interest in Aqidah, then there is an Arabic book called the Aqidah Tahawiyya. It's been written by a very great scholar, and it can be found online. The translation can be found online as well. If a person, if any of you guys would be interested in that book, I can send you in a PDF at a later stage. The very first act of kufr in the world was done by Shaitan. What did he do? When he was told to prostrate in front of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, he did not prostrate, and hence he was expelled from the hereafter, and he was cursed, and he will be cursed until the day of judgment. From this, we can understand that if a person wants to reject anything from a prophet, then that person would be worthy of, that person would be cursed by Allah Taala, and he would be known as a brother of Shaitan, a brother of the devil. So why is Aqidah important? Firstly, we deduce from the Quran Sharif that kufr is the greatest calamity. I remember a scholar reading was that a scholar said scholar was Allama Ashraf Ali Thanvi Rahmatullahi. He was uh, he was he was passing by somewhere and he lost his path. After losing his path, he became very concerned and worried. But there was one sentence he said which really struck me, and he said, Alhamdulillah, praise be to Allah Taala, that I've lost my path, but I haven't lost my iman. Even the Sahaba radiallahu anhu ajma'in, when they used to meet each other, they used to first, they used to first request each other and ask each other, what is your iman like? Instead of finding out of what is your health like. Health was secondary, iman was primary. Secondly, we must realize that from all religions, Islam is a chosen religion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen Islam for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran Sharif, وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِي غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ. That whosoever chooses anything apart from Islam, Allah Ta'ala will not accept that. On the day of judgment, that will not be accepted, it will not be sufficient for a person to enter the realms of paradise. And thirdly, we need to understand that whatever the beliefs are of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, I'll come to that in a moment, where the actual word is derived from. Whatever are the correct beliefs, the correct beliefs from the Hadith, from the Quran, from the consensus of the Imams and any other related evidence, that is accepted. Any other evidence will not be accepted for a person's belief. There's a hadith and there's a narration which actually states, the Prophet ﷺ says that the Jews, they were split upon 71 or 72 groups. And the Christians, they were also split upon 71 or 72 groups. Nowadays, we see the difference in Christians, we see the Protestants, we see the Catholics, again, something which you may have studied at school or university. And the Prophet ﷺ then mentions that this ummah will be split into 73 groups. Into 73 groups, and only one of them will enter paradise. When the Sahaba, when the companions of the Prophet ﷺ heard this, they became very concerned. And they asked the Prophet ﷺ, who is this one group that will be successful on the Day of Judgment? So out of 73 groups, only one will be successful. That is a major concern. The Prophet ﷺ gave a very simple answer. He said, Ma ana alayhi wa ashabi. The path which I follow through divine revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the path that my Sahaba follow, that is the correct path. Any other path can lead to destruction and misguidance. So this again shows that there's only one group which in reality has a correct belief. And this is the group which is known as the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So any belief which coincides with the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah will be correct. Any of the beliefs than the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah will not be accepted. So before we go on to the beliefs regarding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we go back to the book Talim al-Haq, there's two kalimas that we are remaining. The first one is Imani Mujmal. Imani Mujmal means Iman in brief. The kalima is Amantu billahi kama huwa bi asma'ihi wa sifatihi wa qabiltu jami'a ahkamihi. That I believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I believe in all his names and qualities. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has 99 names. According to the narration of Tirmizi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has 99 names. There are more, but the most popular names are 99. And whosoever, it comes in a hadith that whosoever memorizes the 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Jannah, paradise will become compulsory on that person. I do know that in the makatib and in the madrasas, the asatiza do make an effort to make sure that kids learn these off by heart. If a person were to learn 5 a week, honestly, that is not difficult at all. Learn 5 a week and make a habit of reading the Asma' Husna, the beautiful 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every day. Inshallah, that may be a means of you entering paradise, inshallah. So I believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I believe in the Asma' Husna. I believe in his qualities, and I accept all Allah Ta'ala's commands, all the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Regarding the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a person doesn't go according to their wisdom. What you think is correct, that's not accepted. What is accepted is what has Allah Taala said. I'll give you an example. It's obligatory, it's first to read the Maghrib Salah at its appointed time, which is sunset. If you were to read the Maghrib Salah during Asr time, the Maghrib Salah would not be accepted. If you were to read the Maghrib Salah during Isha time, the Maghrib Salah would not be accepted. But when a person goes for Hajj, when a person takes the journey for Hajj, and when he reaches the plains of Muzdalifah, then it's the command of the Prophet ﷺ from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that a person combines Maghrib and Isha, basically reading Maghrib at Isha time. Now our minds would say that I should be reading Maghrib by its own time. But in that instance, at that time, if a person reads Maghrib at the wrong time, it's fine, which is Maghrib with Isha. But if a person reads Maghrib at its correct time, then in that situation, a person would be sinful. So Islam means accepting Allah that has all commands, whether you understand it or not. There's another incident I remember. Mufti Taqi Usmani, Damat Barakatuh. He once went to a hospital, and one of his companions, he took him around to look at the hospital. And there was a ward with mental patients. In that ward, he said outside the ward that this certain ward is for those people who are mental. And one of the categories, when he inquired, why is this certain person, how did he develop a mental illness? So the doctor there, he said that this person actually had a habit of leaving his trousers below his ankles. And below the ankle, there's a certain nerve. When it's touched multiple times, a person can develop a certain kind of mental illness. So there's a wisdom behind everything in the Quran Sharif, everything in the Sunnah. But do we worship Allah Ta'ala because of His wisdom? No. We worship Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala because Allah Ta'ala has given this command. The next kalima is Imam Mufassal, which I'm going to start in detail. And the Imam Mufassal reads, Amantu billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa rusulihi wal yawmil akhiri wal qadri khayrihi wa sharrihi min Allah Ta'ala wal ba'thi ba'da al-maut. The translation is in your books. You may have it in front of you. So I'll leave the translation with you. But there are 7 things the person should believe in. The first and most important thing is believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which we're going to cover at this moment. Does anybody have any questions so far before I start this? I'll wait a few moments. And also a reminder just to say, at 40 minutes, we need to terminate the session and then join again. If you have any questions, you can write down your question in the chat, and I'm happy to answer, inshallah. Right, okay. What was the reason Shaitan is classified as kafir? Okay. I've already mentioned the answer. Right, if I just go back to this slide, just a moment. No, that's a very good question, actually. So if I go back. If we look at this slide, there's certain categories of disbelief. And one of the categories was turning away in arrogance. Shaitan turned away in arrogance. And hence he was cursed. He was cursed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he, first of all, he he did not believe, he did not accept the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which was bowing down to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He turned away in arrogance, and then he was cursed by Allah Taala, and hence he was labeled the kafir. And I hope that answers your question. Does that answer your question? We'll also take a question and answer session at the end of the session. So his turning away was in arrogance, hence he was classified a kafir. And the evidence of that is stated in the Quran Sharif itself that Shaitan is a kafir. Wakana min al-kafirin. Wakana min al-kafirin, and he became one of the disbelievers. Okay, now I'd like to go on to the first part of the Imani Mufassal, which is belief regarding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A very important belief. If a person has any doubt that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists, then that can become a problem for a person's iman. Okay, so Aqidah number one, the first belief is Allah Ta'ala exists. Allah Ta'ala existed before time. Allah Ta'ala's existence didn't start. He wasn't born like we were born. Allah Ta'ala existed through time. Allah Ta'ala is ever living. He will always remain in existence. Before the universe was created, Allah Ta'ala existed. Before he came into existence. An example, if you look at a beautiful palace, which has numerous rooms, it has spacious rooms, it's a beautiful palace. Only a foolish person would say that this palace was created by itself. If a person were to say that the sun, the water came together by itself, and all the buildings were constructed by themselves, that would be absolutely ludicrous. The only conclusion that you can come to is that this must be the work of an expert engineer or builder. Another example would be of a watch. How accurate does a watch, a watch, the dials of a watch, they turn very accurately, and its functioning is perfect. Again, the only obvious answer for this would be that this was the work of an expert watchmaker. If we were to think that the watch itself goes round and gives the time, that would be pathetic again. There's a few incidents which I want to mention. A group of atheists, again, an atheist is a person who doesn't believe in Allah Ta'ala. A group of atheists came to Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi. There are four famous imams which we follow, and we follow their rulings. The rulings of Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi, that's the imam that I follow, and there are people around the world who follow the rulings of Imam Shafi rahmatullahi, Imam Malik rahmatullahi, and also Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahmatullahi. So Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi, he was approached by some atheists, and they had the intention of killing him. So the Imam asked, what would you say about a person who claims that a ship is laden with goods on the sea, it takes away the goods from one side to the other side, the ship navigates itself, it has no sailor, it steers itself, the goods get loaded off the ship by themselves, and obviously the atheists, because it was a pathetic situation, they said that, pity that you're giving such an example. Imam Hanifa said that how can a universe which has so much beautiful things, there's so many planets, if you look at the solar system, you look at the Milky Way, how can that come into existence when a small ship cannot steer itself, etc., etc.? They were embarrassed by this, and they embraced Islam. Again, somebody asked Imam Malik a similar question: what is the proof that there's a creator? He replied by saying, look at your face. You have a nose, you have a mouth, you have ears, you have tongue, you have a cheek, you have lips. And not only that, every single person's face in the world is different. You will not see two person alike. Even if they're the twin brother or twin sister, they will have some kind of difference on their face. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually mentions that, as a favor, وَإِخْتِلَافُ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ وَأَلْوَانِكُمْ, that your languages are different. Even if you look at languages, even if a person is speaking English, every single person's voice, their tone of voice, their accent will be different. If that is not a sign that Allah Ta'ala is the creator, Allah Ta'ala exists, then what other kind of example can a person be given? And again, they embraced Islam upon Imam Malik Rahmatullah's hands. An atheist also asked Imam Shafi Rahmatullahi, about the proof of the creator. Imam Shafi Rahmatullahi gave an excellent answer. Imam Shafi Rahmatullahi, he said that if you look at the leaves of a mulberry tree, the taste, the color, and the smell of them are the same. But when a silkworm eats from the mulberry tree, silk is produced. When a bee eats from there, honey is produced. When a sheep eats from there, it ejects droppings. The same leaf, but when it comes into excretion, it's a different matter. It's a different source. It becomes a different origin. Again, that is proof that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists. A Bedouin once asked, what's the proof that Allah Ta'ala exists? The same kind of answer, that if the footprints indicate that there's a path being followed by people, if the sky is full of stars, the earth is full of rose, again, we believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator. Some people might say, well, I can't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I can't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how can Allah Ta'ala exist? I can't see the angels. How can the angels exist? So if you were to be wounded, you were riding a bike and you were wounded, and you went and you came to your mom or father and said that Abadi Amid, I've got wounded here, I'm bleeding. And I'm in a lot of pain. So and if they said to you that we don't believe you, where's the pain? Because we can't see it. That would be an absolutely foolish answer. So in the same manner, to say that if you can't see anything, you don't believe it, that is not a correct way of believing things. Just a quick question somebody asked, what is a Bedouin? A Bedouin is a person who lives in a village. In those days, there were many people who were in contact with the Prophet ﷺ, and they were most of them were villagers. I'll give you a modern day example. A modern day example is the Wi-Fi. I'm sure most of you have Wi-Fi in your houses, in your homes. You're using Wi-Fi right now. If you were using Wi-Fi, your Zoom wouldn't be working. If I were to say, well, I don't believe that your internet can work or something like that because I can't see the Wi-Fi. Without seeing the Wi-Fi, you can't. There's no wire to your computer. There's no wire to computer which is connecting you to your Wi-Fi. Despite that, you believe that the Wi-Fi exists. So there's many examples out there that it doesn't mean that if you can't see it, you don't believe in it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually says that a section of Iman is that not a section of Iman. Iman is yu'minuna bil ghaib. In the para of Alif Lam Mim, in Surah Baqarah on the second page after Surah Fatiha, Allah Ta'ala mentions that Iman is of the unseen. Iman is of the unseen, because if a person were to see Allah Ta'ala, if a person were to see the angels, if a person could see in front of them, then there would be no test. Iman is a test, and Allah Ta'ala would like to see which of us are successful in the test and which of us would be failing in the test. So I just mentioned that in the sight of Allah Ta'ala, the most worthy of those are those people who believe in the unseen, as is mentioned in Surah Baqarah. What I'm going to do now is, if I'd like you all to terminate the session and join again if you don't mind, because the session will be terminating in a few minutes. Jazakallah.